the distinguished Chief Justice, Justice I.P. Mukherjee, Mrs. Mukherjee, distinguished judges of the Meghalaya High Court, Justice Thank You, Justice Dingdo, Justice Vishwajit Bhattacharjee, Justice Nadira Patharia, law officers, both of the state of Meghalaya and the Union of India, members of the High Court and the Shillong Bar Associations, Registrar General and members of the staff of the High Court, all the children who are gathered here and who've presented some beautiful songs to start with, and then of course the members of the staff who've sung brilliantly. Ladies and gentlemen, what do we really mean by independence? When India gained independence, it gave us a sense of freedom. So independence means freedom. It was freedom from an external power, from colonial rule, from the oppression which our society had faced at the hands of foreign rulers. That is an element of external freedom, freedom from being ruled by an external power, and a transformation which 15th August 1947 brought to Swarajya, where we would govern ourselves. But freedom has something as, or even perhaps more significant, 75 years after independence, which is internal freedom. The freedom which we now have as members, as citizens of a great nation, must also mean a sense of internal freedom for each of us. And I begin my short address this morning by emphasizing that quality of internal freedom which music brings and which we heard this morning. Music has a universal quality. It speaks of love, compassion, humanity, and dignity. I personally do not understand the words of that beautiful Garo song which was presented, but I don't have to understand the words because I could sense that through the devotion to the motherland, it spoke about all the values which we as citizens stand for, of love, of acceptance, of rejoicement, and of standing together both in times of happiness and despair. Our nation has achieved remarkable progress over the last 75 years. We have an educated young population. We are one of the youngest countries in the globalized world. On social indicators like literacy, reduction of infant mortality, reduction of the rates of fertility amongst women, we have made tremendous progress as a nation. When I was growing up in the 1960s, India had to import wheat under a program called PL 480 from the United States, which was a program intended to prevent starvation and famine in developing countries. So from times of famine, we have moved to times of self-sufficiency as an exporter of food grain. There has been a tremendous growth of infrastructure, and the road from Guwahati to Shillong is just one indicator of the tremendous growth of infrastructure which is taking place all over the country, whether it be in terms of roads, electricity, ports, greenfield projects which are coming up all over the nation. But the next challenge for India and for all of us is to liberate the entrepreneurial spirit of our people. Soon after independence, India grew up as a nation believing that the government was the sole giver, whether it be of education, of social welfare, or other benefits. The government has an important role to play in our social lives still, because there are still pockets of our country which suffer from underdevelopment. But equally, the future of India now lies in liberating the spirit of the young, all of whom are really present here behind me and in front of me, because they represent the true ethos, the true spirit, and the true aspiration of a nation. And the challenge before India today and going forward is how do we convert the energies of a young population, liberate their spirit into self-motivation and achievement. We had different challenges when we were independent, when we became independent. Food was one of them. Would we survive as a nation was another one. 565 odd states, all princely states which had to be brought together as Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel did after independence. But those were the challenges which the founders faced. We have overcome those challenges, but we have now new challenges. We have the challenges of dealing with hostilities across the border, as Pahalgam and the Operation Sindhu reminded us. Our sovereignty is questioned through new avenues. Whether I can buy oil from a country which sells it to me at competitive rates and which is in the interest of my economy is sought to be dictated by foreign powers. That's a new challenge to our sovereignty, our ability to take decisions on what we will buy or consume across the globalized world, which will best subserve the interests of a resilient, modern and strong India. Yesterday there was a cloudburst. We saw those pictures. There was a cloudburst just last week. That is the challenge of climate change, which coastal communities, hill states, including Meghalaya, the states in the northeast, the states in the north, are facing in an increasing measure. And that is not because of what we have done, but many of these causes are beyond our control. That is because of what the world did when it industrialized, by consuming natural resources at random without regard for the future of humanity. What does freedom mean? And what is true freedom for us? The great achievement of India is molding together people who speak different languages, people who possess different cultures, people who abide by different religions and faiths, people who belong to different regions, people who have different ways of life, into one community. And for all the young people today, I want you to be impressed with the fact that it is this India that you have to protect for the future. An India which has respect for our diversity and inclusion, as much as a commitment for the country to be one in the future, long after we are gone from the scene. Freedom has given us numerous individual freedoms. The right to speak, the right to sing. Even the right to sing is a freedom. It's a part of your freedom of speech. The right to the freedom of movement, of occupation, of religion, of following your own dreams and aspirations. But please ask yourself some fundamental questions. Does the freedom which the Constitution has given us give us the freedom to be hateful to each other? To hate each other? Is that the meaning of freedom? Is the freedom which the Constitution give us the freedom to rape, to molest, and to assault women? Is that the freedom which the Constitution has given us? Is the freedom which we have been given as citizens the freedom to consume drugs, to peddle drugs, and to supply drugs? Is the freedom which is given to us a freedom to traffic in human beings, especially young children and young girls? Is the freedom which is given to us a freedom to use the internet for child pornography Is this the meaning of freedom? And is this where freedom is going to take us? The answer lies in our hands, not in somebody else's hands. Because each one of us can make a difference in what we consume, in what we do, in the lifestyle which we follow, to ensure that the freedom which we have and enjoy is consistent with the freedom and the dignity of others. Freedom has no meaning without duty. Duty requires us to be aware of the existence of other people around us. Duty requires us to be aware of the existence of all forms of human life around us. In nature, the animals, the birds. Freedom is not complete without duty, because freedom without duty becomes freedom for yourself and an assault on the freedoms of others. Freedom requires respect for the voiceless. Respect for the voiceless includes respect for the environment, which does not speak unless the environment ultimately unleashes a reign of terror when we destroy the environment. Freedom requires respect for all forms of beings which occupy this planet. So freedom must be coupled with duty, a duty to respect the dignity of others, a duty to respect our own institutions. The importance of the High Court of Meghalaya as an important democratic forum given to the preservation of the rule of law, that importance must be respected by citizens, because it is in the respect which citizens have for our institutions, for our legislatures, for our democratically elected governments, for our judiciary. It is this respect for institutions which is part of our duty as free citizens, and ultimately respect for the rights and dignity of others. Freedom for us must not be only freedom for me as an individual, but freedom for the respect and dignity of my neighbor and those who live beyond my neighborhood. We have to keep our homes clean. That is the Swachh Bharat Abhiyan. But while we keep our homes clean, we ought not to pile up our garbage outside. Because if we merely pile up our garbage outside while keeping our own homes clean, we are not doing service to the need for keeping our societies clean. True freedom is realized through internal freedom. It is realized through our minds and hearts when we replace anger with compassion, intolerance with love. Our preamble speaks of 4 values: fraternity, justice, liberty, and equality. But these are not just constitutional values. They must be translated by all of you beyond the preamble into the daily lives of our living citizens. Finally, the role of the High Court. The High Court of Meghalaya is a sentinel in the governance of not merely Meghalaya, but the governance of the nation as a whole. Because the High Court of Meghalaya links its arms in a common brotherhood across all other judicial institutions in India in creating an overall framework where the role of law and the rule of law is respected. Institutions like our high courts have a very significant role to play. Meghalaya has its own distinct culture, customs, of which judges have to be aware, and they are purely aware of these customs. And in then bringing out this balance between custom and the rule of law. The High Court has a very important role in preserving the sense of dialogue between the citizens and the institutions. Citizens who come to the High Court, to the District Court, and express their small and large grievances. That dialogue is very important to the process of healing. Judges can't give relief to every citizen, but they heal wounds when people realize that they give them a patient hearing. And giving them a hearing is itself a process of healing. When judges mediate between disputes between husbands and wives, between brothers, between sisters, between adjoining farmers, between the citizen and the state, they are performing a very important role. That these are institutions which, under the framework of law, preserve ultimately the citizen's faith in the confidence of a free India. So as we celebrate this Independence Day, and this Independence Day is to my mind a crucial Independence Day, because this Independence Day lays down the framework which we want our society to follow and the nation to follow in the years to come. Each of us has a very vital role in building a nation which is strong, a society which preserves its essential values, accepts that each of us have a role to play in respecting the dignity of others, in accepting that each of us may be different, but each of us molded together promote the cause of a strong, prosperous, and democratic India. I'm deeply grateful to the Chief Justice for inviting me for this event, and I'm grateful to you for a very patient few minutes that I've been able to give you some of my basic thoughts on the subject. Thank you. Jai Hind.